You do it one flat at a time. I think that's as good as they get. I've heard brighter ones, but this is still pretty good.
You've probably got a moody plate, because you get dark, rich, warm, moody, you know.
You've got the aluminium coil, the coil's been changed.
Yes, which is good. You don't want the brass
one. The first 500 or 600 are originally fitted with brass coils. They were brass in the centre with a coil wound around them. And I've got the original manuals. The original manuals show a frequency response like that, with the peak at 250 hertz.
Right.
Now the organist, the jazz organist, James Taylor, has one of those.
Right.
And I said, you know, the later coils resonate between 800 hertz and a kilohertz, so you get a nice even thing like that. And this has got one of those on.
Right.
And he said, no, I like that. I like that dark sound.
Yeah.
So it's horses for courses, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A touch more brightness may be good, but
right.
Well, it's a peak really, rather than the brightness. We were saying earlier, the brightness is down to the steel itself.
Oh, I see. Yeah, the only thing I've got some Altiverb EMT convolutions.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I've found, they sound exactly the same.
Right. Yeah.
But the spatial, the way they sit in the mix.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
There's none of it. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Have you heard plates before in other studios?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
only when I've been in a studio.
Yeah.
You know, never had my own.
Barry's got some nice units upstairs, you know, Clive. Fairchild copies I was just talking about, funny enough. He's got some lovely Fairchild compressor copies up there.
Well, it's as good as you get.
Yeah, it looks it. It's a London company, you say. Which one was it?
They're called Analog Tube.
Analog Tube.
Simon Saywood.
Simon Saywood, brilliant. Do you know of him, Clive?
Never heard of him.
He's
never have I.
I always want to say Roundhouse Studios, but I don't think it's there.
I've been thinking, people keep on asking me to make copies of them, but you can't really get it right unless you do it. Well, you do it slightly different anyway now. You wouldn't have the constant voltage transformer, you'd have a DC.
Well,
and personally, I would make the side chain transistorized, or at least ICs and so on.
Yeah, some of the...
But the thing that the Fairchild has got is that 4 double variable mu triodes. And those variable mu triodes are like rocking horse manure.
Yeah, well, he had to actually get the Russian company to come back into existence to make this.
Right, really.
So we were making something. I mean,
God,
it's
some American guy bought the Russian factory, didn't he?
If we could,
Electro-Harmonics, that's it. The guy who runs
if I could remember how to open it up, Clive would just love looking inside. I'm
yeah,
sure.
I'm sure. Yeah, God. How much was that then? If you don't mind?
12 and a half.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How much is the original?
That's about what they would cost to make. As I told you a little while ago, I said that's how much these things cost to make.
Yeah, exactly.
The transformers alone are £1,500 quid.
But look what Colin was
the valves in there, those valves, I sell them for about 60 quid each.
Yeah,
and I'm sure they go for more than that.
6386s them valves in
that's
there.
it.
He's
Yeah.
given me the, all the NOS boxes. He's given me all the boxes so that I know all the numbers for whatever valve I've got in there.
Yeah,
well, I've got some GE ones at home, which I use.
General Electric, really?
Yeah, and I've also I bought all the
it's got boxes of
capacitors.
them, I remember now. Original valves, German ones, GC, yeah.
I did have a couple of RCA ones, but they're impossible now.
Didn't the Germans make them, Telefunken?
No,
Really?
there was an American valve.
Oh, really?
It's the only variable mu triode ever made, and I know your mate says they're making them again, but I'll believe it when I see one and put it on a valve test.
Yes, yeah, the Russian company. He mentioned that Russian company, we should look them up. Might be the same guys that you guys went to, the Russians. Can't imagine it ain't.
I'm saying Russian, but again, like I said, I'm a musician, not a technician.
In fact, he said Czechoslovakian after that, didn't he? He said one of them Eastern Bloc
but
countries.
It's just like
I think it's Electro-Harmonics probably. If anyone's doing it,
he's the only one doing it. He went out to Russia and bought the factory.
You can never get a complete availability of all the old valves because there's so many of them. There's thousands and thousands of different valves. And most of them are pretty crap valves. Let's be honest about it. I mean, they were made for specific purposes which no longer exist.
And I mean, a lot of I believe there's quite a lot of chemical use involved in valve production.
Absolutely, barium and stuff.
You're not allowed to stock it anymore.
It's a lot of chemical
use.
Yeah. I
realised where we were going with that one.
Especially with
apparently that's one of the reasons that Studer A80s were so popular, because they had the pop-off lids on the rollers, and you could hide your stash in there. Though I personally, of course, never understand this sort of stuff.
Well, like I say, when my wife arrives, I've never heard of it either.
Here's your driver car that fits over your driver transducer.
When you move these things, you have to take these off and you detension the plate. If you don't detension the plate and take these things off, what happens is the spring will break. Right. Luckily, we only had a little metal elastic bush and a bit of string break. But if the spring breaks and this is on, the drive coil smacks into the magnet with the pressure of these strings, and you lose a drive coil, which is $800 or thereabouts, $700-800 plus shipping, plus some.
That looks very delicate, that car, doesn't it?
When we move this and box it up and move it back, we are going to move it like eggs.
I know. Yeah, well, Dad showed me this.
Amazing that something so big and chunky is so delicate.
600 pound in weight, Oh, beauty.
So Paul, is it something you've always been into this?
Oh yeah, when I was in Israel we had, my mate bought one for £200 and he had like 10 grand's worth of digital racks and all that, and he said, Paul, come and listen to the plate, and all the musicians stopped, you know what I mean, to go and listen to it again, and we just couldn't believe it. It was the only thing that actually sounded like a hall. It reminded me of a stone staircase, you know, like with a marble roof or something, and I was like, how could it do that? It was on backing vocals with his choir and all that, and it just actually sounded like a stone building, you know what I mean? None of the digital stuff sounded like that. It was cold and not realistic, you know.
You know Tracy Chapman, Love and Affection?
Yeah, of course,
with that lovely delayed snare.
Yeah.
That was done in Studio 3 at Olympic, plate 5, I believe.
Right.
And it just sounds beautiful.
God, yeah, I like them recordings.
That was done when I was there. Absolutely cracking one with all brand new capacitors and everything else, and perfect valves, is almost as good as one of these, but not quite. But the main mod you can do is to put the little head amps in here. Henry Dien in Japan makes them. Right. I don't know what it costs. You get 2 head amps, a 24-volt power supply, and you change it all. It's a real fiddle to do, but you do it.
They clean it up, don't they?
And you get about 20 dBs improvement in signal to noise.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
But he charges like about £1,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. That can live there for a second.
I'm impressed.
Right, and going back down again. I need on 2 seconds for setting it up. That's it. Oops. Two seconds.
Lovely.
Right.
Lovely.
That's it. It's just over half an inch, 3/4 inch. Fantastic. Right. Tension the plate. Bolt it all back together again. Cooking with electricity.
Wicked, man. Wicked. Good job.
Right. Okay. Happy
because of all the delays of it being spread around the plate.
Right. And the longer it goes on is controlled by how close that damping plate is to this plate.
Wow.
But you can see this is a BBC modification.
Oh, I see.
This is a mono plate originally. That's a BBC modification of the second one.
Yeah, so you've got a huge piece of German and then a British.
Yeah. We just use a shelf bracket.
It doesn't do anything.
It doesn't. No. I just think it says it speaks volumes.
Yeah, it does. It does compared to the Germans. Yeah. I was surprised.
This would have been a BBC mod. This was not done by someone after it left the BBC.
So when you say BBC, do you know where it was?
No, but we can tell it's a BBC plate because it's got the BBC electronics in it.
I see.
And when these things came out, they had a little wheel here that you adjusted the time with.
Right.
And the BBC wanted it because they put all the plates in the basement, like 30 or 40 plates for each studio block, and then each person booked a plate and you plugged it in. So you had, it went phantom powered down the send and return leads, and so there's all sorts of phantom transformers or repeating coils in BBC terms there. And in the original remotes there were repeating coils. So the same cables took a balanced feed of send or return plus a phantomed 48 volts. Or in the case of the sensor, in the sensor it was minus 48 volts for increasing and plus 48 volts for decreasing. Well, which is strange, but by current standards you think it the other way around. But in those days everything was negative rails on transistors. And positive rails were yet to be invented. And this would have been made like that when this was a mono plate back in 1958, 59, whenever. It's serial number 400 or 300.
EMT copied them afterwards and did their own motor.
They did their own motor inside. Eventually, originally EMT put one on the top, and they saw one of these BBC plates, and they did their own version of this.
Like it.
But they put their thingy bob just there, their sensor, whereas the BBC put their sensor down the bottom.
Can we hear that shimmer again, please, Clive? I just want to capture that audio. I've never done that. To hear that, please. Yeah, nice. Okay.
Well,